Hi everyone, thanks so much for taking the time to click on this video today. I am joined by JJ. We are here today to speak about the wealth panel event that we've just hosted here at Equator.
Yeah, so exciting. Really good panel, really interesting topic. It's basically about consumer duty and the effect that the changes in legislation are going to have on financial management businesses, and how potentially, digital could be one of the key ways that they improve the offering to consumers to meet the new expectations. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it.
Brilliant, let's get into it.
Okay.
JJ,
Yes.
Can you give us a bit of a rundown as to what's happening in the investment management world just now, and why did you want to host one of our events on this?
So it's super interesting what's happening right now in investment management. There's in fact, actually, we've got a client in that space, and we were having a conversation over dinner, in fact, about the changes to legislation of how financial advisors interact with their clients. Mm-hmm. So basically, the FCA is setting a kind of minimum standard, in a sense, for the value offered to clients. Okay. So, which means that businesses are having to look after clients' investments in a more proactive way, and so on and so forth, in a way that they're maybe not used to doing, and in a way that in many cases they're not set up to do. So they're having to scale up the amount of care they give their consumers, but maybe they don't have the resources to do it. And for us, being about digital transformation, it was really an interesting opportunity to say, well, is it possible for them to look at how they leverage digital to kind of scale their value offering to those people, right? So can they use digital to make their customers' lives easier, make their offering of greater value, all that kind of stuff. So we thought it'd be really nice to get people from all over from a few different perspectives, actually, from some within the sector and some out with the sector, to discuss what the challenges are and kind of how businesses should be thinking about, or could be thinking about, going about solving them.
Say there was a business watching this and they were kind of like, if they were to ask you, why should we care about the changes that are happening in the industry just now, what would you say to them?
So I think it's really important they do care, because there are businesses already who are getting fined for not, delivering the appropriate level of service. So it's quite a worrying place. And I don't know the ins and outs of it to the extent that I know that every business will get fined. But I think that if there's a question mark over the value that you're delivering your consumers, then you need to address that. And I think there's various levels to it. One of the panelists we had was talking about how in Australia they've actually already launched this consumer duty type legislation. So he's got experiences of companies going through a lot of disruption as a result. So I think it's really important to think about actions that you can take, even just to discover what risks you might be faced with. To work that out now, I think is really important. Yeah.
So from an Equator perspective, why do we care about the changes that are happening in the industry just now?
I think we care because our job is to improve the way that businesses interact with their consumers. One of the things that digital transformation is all about is about improving that relationship, right? Making it more valuable, making it more meaningful, those sorts of things. And this is absolutely a case where you've got a scenario in the industry where you've got a really big gap, an increasing gap between what consumers expect to happen and what businesses are delivering. And then you've now got, financial conduct wading in and setting the bar. So, on behalf of consumers. So that's going to have an effect directly, but it's bigger than that. It's how do you scale an offering that traditionally was, person to person, and by doing so, you don't want to just have to hire more people. You might want to say, well, what bits of that relationship can I automate, and so on and so forth. So for us, it's absolutely, where we are, which is, leveraging digital to help you take on tomorrow, making sure that you're able to address the changes that tomorrow is going to bring, with changes in legislation, changes in consumer expectations, that kind of thing.
Brilliant, yeah. Okay, so we had Simon, we had Tony, and we had Alex.
Alex, yeah. For the webinar. I mean, we were super lucky to get Alex again. I love having him as part of these panel events, because he was in a previous one specifically about AI. So he's a great asset from Google, and he has a really good understanding of how businesses can use AI in a really functional way, like actually practically how they can use it. So we thought it was really interesting to have him on board. Simon, who is one of our clients and who we're working with directly, he's from a financial management business, and they are, wrestling with these challenges, and actually we're doing some work already with him to address some of those challenges as well. So we've got some sort of first-hand experience. So he's really good from the kind of industry perspective. And Tony is really interesting because he actually has worked in Australia in the financial management business and has seen what effect these changes have already had on those businesses. So seen that not only are they having like an effect now, but also in Australia they've already made them more strict, right? Like in a sense, raise the level of value that those businesses are required by law to give to consumers. So he, his take on it was, it's quite likely that they're going to do that here as well. So you can't just say this is one change and then it's going to be done. So he's actually seen how businesses have responded to those changes. So it was brilliant to have his input from a kind of very, very practical point of view as well.
Yeah, very good.
So, yeah, it was really good. It was a really good panel and a really good discussion, and some brilliant ideas in there of like things that are kind of the first things that someone should do, and then the kind of things that they might do down the line,
Okay, so our last panel event was about AI, and you've mentioned that again in this panel event. Is it safe to say that's going to be something that we just can't get away from?
Yes, it's super interesting. You know that I go on about it all the time. AI space is fascinating to me, and it's one that's like, on the one hand, there's a whole load of like negative stuff, and on the other hand, there's a whole load of kind of overreaction to what it is, what it means. But I think genuinely the technology that's becoming mainstream at the moment is going to have a massive impact on businesses, like of all types. Almost every private equity deal has a question in it about how those businesses are using AI to protect themselves against changes in the future. So it's hugely, hugely important for all businesses, and how they use it, the questions around how they use it are still very, very current, right? People don't really know what to do. So it's very much one of the things that we're talking to people a lot about, how they potentially could solve those challenges. Now, the last one was about how you implement AI as a whole. So obviously you can go and see that on our website. But it was about the sort of simple steps you can take to implement AI-based intelligent services into your business. Because that's quite complicated, and it means that there are certain things that you might change from an operational point of view, you might change from a customer interaction point of view, that kind of stuff. In this case, I think it's super interesting because the relationship between the consumer and the business has traditionally been a very interpersonal one. One of the reasons why it's hard to scale, right? Because it's been at the very least an annual review between an IFA and a customer. So like they actually sit down, go for lunch, whatever. Now you can't go for lunch with ChatGPT, but you can have a conversation with it. So having AI be a way that you can have what feels like a more rich conversation with the business may well be one of the ways in which people can start to create a scalable offering that feels like that customer's getting value and getting support, but maybe isn't always a human being at the other end. So I think, again, it's one that we'll probably see disruption in that space thanks to AI.
Interesting. So if someone missed the panel event, why would you encourage that they go and have a watch of it?
So I think a lot of people should watch it, and not just those from the financial management sector. And the reason for that is that this is a really interesting case, but one that we see in lots of different spaces, because it's about the expectations of consumers compared to the value that businesses are offering them. And we're seeing the scenario here, which is, the expectations of consumers are higher than the value that can be offered by businesses that have scaled and are really over-reliant on a person-to-person relationship. So the question of how you use digital to kind of improve that is kind of central. And it's not the only sector or the only part of the financial management sector where that's relevant. So because we're discussing things that businesses could do right away and the potential risks of not doing them, any business that's kind of in that space really will benefit from watching it, and we'll get some really good points from it, I think. So I think the panel event is really interesting for a lot of different types of people. Obviously not everybody's going to have time to watch the panel event maybe, but we also do a paper to follow up. So you've got a report of all of the things that we've talked about, and you can print it out and stick it on your wall if that's helpful. So they're both available on the site for anybody to download if they want to.
Fantastic. Thank you, JJ, for your time today. Thank you for watching, for those of you that have watched this video. And yeah, I'm sure lots of you are going to get value from watching the panel event and reading the paper. And I'm looking forward to another one of our chats very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.